And next up is PRC Saltillo, and that would be Debbie. And I'm going to turn it over to her right away so that we can stay on time and keep moving. Thank you for being here.
Great.
Debbie, it's
Hi,
over.
all. Can you see my PowerPoint? Because it seems like my monitors have swapped.
Yes, we can. We got it.
Perfect. Okay, so today I will be talking about Unidad and Empower and discovering bilingual communication for AAC, but I did want to address one question that came into the chat while Jane was presenting on the Via Nano, and that was about the trial loan program and whether or not that was available in Canada. And unfortunately, there is no trial loan program in Canada. You could just reach out to your PRC Saltillo consultants out there, either Arlene or Olivia. But unfortunately as well, the VIA products are not available in Canada at this time. So you just have to download the app into an iPad that you already have or that you purchase separately. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started again. My name is Debbie Witkowski. I am a training and implementation specialist with PRC Saltillo, specifically in the MinSpeak Academy division of the Training and Education Department. And I'm also the developer of the Unidad vocabulary systems. And so it's my pleasure to be able to share this with you. Unidad has been in an accent device since about 2017. It's in the older New Voice software. But later this month, or coming very soon, will be Unidad and Empower, which is our newer software in which we can run MinSpeak programs in the accent device. And you can access various versions of Unidad. You can get it with 28 keys, with 36 keys, 60 keys, or 84 keys. And it's available on the entire Accent product line. So we have an Accent 1400, an Accent 1000, and an Accent 800. And the difference between those devices is the screen size and obviously the weight of those. Nope, I'm not going to go there quite yet, but let me go ahead. I'm going to swap over to my Empower software and just give you a little bit of a tour or a walkthrough. I wanted to let you know that Unidad was created to be a robust bilingual Spanish and English AAC tool. And it's available, as I said, in 28, 36, 60, and 84 locations. It's also available if you're familiar with any of our MinSpeak products, such as such as Words for Life or Unity. There's a one-hit version, and then there's a sequenced version. And Unidad did not have a one-hit version in New Voice, but now in Empower, we will have a one-hit version. So this is Unidad 84 one-hit. I want to point out the Spanish toggle button up here on the left, this gray key. That's where you'll find the Spanish toggle button in most of the vocabularies. And with the 28 locations, it's on the pages just because we lack real estate on that front page. But let me go ahead and show you if I switch over to from English to Spanish, how quickly that happens. So I can say, yo gusta, right? Actually, I would say me gusta, right?
Gusta.
And when I switch back into English, you'll notice that me gusta stays. And now I can say me gusta and go into my categories and select, let's say a banana or grapes.
Grapes. Me gusta grapes.
Me gusta grapes. And so you'll hear that it says it pronounces the words in the correct language, even when both languages are represented in this message area. And I'll talk a little bit more about that down the line. When you're in a one-hit vocabulary, basically one hit gets you a word.
No. Like. Have.
And occasionally you will see an uppercase label such as with family or color, and then you'll get additional vocabulary to select. So it'll take
color.
2 hits for that, but just to expand them on a vocabulary that you have in a one-hit version. You also, as you notice, we don't get our activity rows that we would typically see in a sequence version. All of our noun vocabulary is located under this categories button. And when I select this categories button, It's actually been designed to allow users to find the vocabulary in the one-hit version in the same location that they would find it in a sequence version. So it's not alphabetically organized, which is really important when you're thinking about a bilingual communicator, because they're not, an alphabetical organization will only support one language, not both. And so by organizing them in the correct category for sequenced vocabularies, and we'll see that when we go into sequenced, you also alleviate that issue of how do I organize this vocabulary if I'm not going to do it alphabetically. So let me go ahead into the sequenced vocabulary. The one-hit vocabulary, just by the way, is an introductory vocabulary. There's, probably about 100 core words in here, plus there are noun categories. It's not a hugely robust vocabulary, but it's a good place to get started for some of our communicators. Most of our communicators jump right into the sequenced version, and I'm going to go into Unidad 84 sequenced right now. And oops, let me get there. Okay, and as I mentioned before, you have your your toggle back and forth between your two languages up here, this gray button. And I love how quickly this is happening in Empower. If any of you are familiar with Unidad in the New Voice software, there was a significant lag while the computer or the tablet switched languages. And so there was, it took about 10, 15 seconds for that to happen, whereas now it just happens pretty automatically, which is really amazing. We have high quality Spanish voices that are, you select a voice, like for example, I right now have Emilio. On the Spanish side, I have Emilio Spanish. On the English side, I have Emilio English. So it's the same exact voice. And even on the English side, it has a little bit of a Spanish accent. But that's a beautiful thing in terms of when you're doing this code switching, you're not switching voices. The voice quality is the same on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and produce just a simple sentence. I'm going to say, I like to play. And that gives you the ability to hear this Spanish.
I like to play.
This sort of bit of an accent with Emilio. There's also Valeria, which is the little girl voice, and then there are 2 adult voices as well. So one of the things that we talk about, actually, let me jump back. I'm checking my notes. Let me just jump back. I know I commented on this already, but let's just see one more example. If I were to say, I like to play in English, and then go over into Spanish to find my game, I could go to jugar, and then I could go to, more games, and I could say, I like to play poker or poker. And it's going to say, well, you know what, let me choose a different word just because that sounds a lot like it sounds in English, and I want you to hear the difference. So let's go up into that again, and we will find the game hearts,
Corazones.
right? I like to play corazones.
I like to play corazones.
Corazones. So you hear that it's pronouncing the vocabulary correctly in the appropriate language. It's kind of funny when you're working on this software and you don't have these voice synthesizers and it's just speaking English. It just kind of butchers the Spanish words, but these beautiful voices do an amazing job. One of the things that we hear about a lot when we're talking about AAC is the importance of motor planning. So in Unidad, there's been a huge effort to maintain a motor plan in English and in Spanish wherever possible. And let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. And so if I want to say the words in English, if I want to say eat, it's the apple plus the verb. Sleep is the bed plus the verb.
Sleep.
Read is the book plus the verb.
Read.
Let's do 2 more. Let's do help. This guy in the bathtub needs a little bit of help.
Help.
And let's do drink.
Drink.
If I go into the Spanish side, I'm going to say the Spanish correlates to those words the exact same way. So comer is going to be apple plus the verb.
Comer.
Dormir is the apple plus the verb.
Dormir.
We also had read or leer in Spanish.
Leer.
I have ayudar in Spanish.
Ayudar.
And then tomar. in Spanish?
tomar,
So I want to point out tomar because it's really important to, when we're thinking about our Spanish vocabulary options or our bilingual vocabulary options, to determine how they were created. A lot of the bilingual systems that are out there do a translation, in which case this would actually be beber. But if you know the language and the way it's used culturally, it's more frequent that people would take a drink. The word tomar means take. That's how it would translate in English. But if we're saying to take a drink, we'd say tomar rather than say beber. And so tomar is used more with a greater frequency, and that's why that's the correlate. If I need to say beber, I can just hit that key twice and I'll get to
beber,
beber. So I wanted to show you that, and you may have noticed this already, that in Spanish, the pronoun dictates the form of the verb used. So if I'm going to say I eat, I would say yo
yo,
como,
como,
or I might say tú
tú,
comes.
comes,
And so for every verb tense for which there's a pronoun correlate, you'll see that you can select the symbol, and then I can go up into my subjunctive form, and I have all of my different pronoun derivations, which is really important. Let's see, what else did I want to share with you? I think I did want to share with you one other thing, and that was the fact that, going back to this notion of translation, that if there's an English word, for example, the word get, there are many words in Spanish that convey the different derivations or the different uses of get that we would have in English. So in English, get means to obtain or to understand or to acquire or to receive something. And in Spanish, there's not just one word for that. So in Spanish, we want to make sure that, again, that this is a standalone language system. And so while I have one sequence to say the word get in English, if I want to say, trying to think, so recibir, which would be one of the words to receive, recibir would be one use of get,
recibir,
or one translation of get. Obtener is another word that's translated as get.
obtener,
Another word that's translated as get is, I have to look at my notes because I'm not a Spanish speaker, conseguir. And let me find that for us to get, so we're getting that out of the chest.
conseguir,
And then traer. So the dog takes us to traer.
traer,
And then the last one that I have here on my list is ganar, which means to get a win, right? To get a victory. And so if you were to go into the Spanish dictionary and look up the translation for get, you would get all 5 of those words. So it's really important for our Spanish speakers to be able to have access to all of those word forms and not just one translated verb form. And I think that that's all that I was hoping to share as I went through this. Let me just see if there's anything that I missed. I did talk about the importance of motor planning, and what do I have? I have a minute left, so let me take advantage of that minute to show you one thing. We talked about the importance of motor planning, but what we prioritized above motor planning was being true to the language itself. And so, for example, if I am on the English side, I have my adjective keys here, and so I can say good, better, and best. On the Spanish side, just because of how the system, a real estate thing, we have 4 adjective forms. And so they actually had to bump up. We have, well, that's probably not a good example because we have this extra form here. Let me think of another one. There we go. We have malo, mala, malos, and malas. So because there are 4 adjectival forms in Spanish, we prioritize sort of shifting that motor plan to make sure that we had access to all 4 of those. And I think that that's all that I wanted to share with you guys.